You can close your machzor, it's okay. Famous story told by the Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. Once there was a king and a queen whose kingdom was cursed. And their son, the pride and joy, the prince, became convinced that he was a rooster. He removed his clothes and sat clucking beneath the family table. He refused to eat human food, only chicken food. He refused to speak. His parents were beside themselves. They called in doctors and healers and therapists and wizards, but no one could help the prince. Finally, they invited the rabbi. The rabbi assured them he could cure the boy, but it would be unusual. The parents agreed, just heal our son. So the rabbi took off his clothes, got down under the table, began clucking like a rooster, and ate rooster food. And now the parents were truly astonished. They had a pair of roosters in the house. The rabbi and the boy spent the day together, clucking and eating rooster food. And at one point, the rabbi turned to the boy and says, "You know, it hurts my throat to speak this way. Wouldn't it be better to speak like people?" "But we're roosters," exclaimed the boy. "All right, so we'll be roosters who speak like people." And the boy agreed. And so they began to speak. And the rabbi said, "You know, it's cold here with no clothes on. Wouldn't it be better for us to dress like people?" "But we're roosters. Roosters don't wear clothes," answered the boy. "So we'll be roosters who dress like people," responded the rabbi. And the boy agreed, and he dressed. And the rabbi said, "You know, I really don't like rooster food. Wouldn't it be better to eat people food?" And the boy said, "Okay." And finally the rabbi said, "You know, my back hurts. Wouldn't it be better for us to stand and walk the world as people do?" And the boy agreed, and they rose from beneath the table, and the boy was cured. I know this rabbi. I am this rabbi. I have sat under the table with so many people who have forgotten who they are. They sit crumpled, bent over under the table, under all the expectations and demands of their lives, naked and unprotected from the tragedies that come inevitably from adulthood, starving from the spiritual chicken feed offered by this culture. She comes to me and shares that she's exhausted, dried up by the endless and conflicting demands of being wife, mother, daughter, professional, or the guilt and regret for having given up her profession to be a mom. She can't figure out what he wants, what makes him happy. She's worn down by endless carpools to school, soccer games, gymnastic practice, dance rehearsals, orthodontist appointments, and bar mitzvah lessons. And amid all that, she's still trying to be a human being. Trying to be a human being with a soul. He comes when a crisis arrives. His dad dies, or his best friend has a heart attack. His job gets downsized. His kid is in trouble. He can't handle it. This isn't the life he was prepared for. He meets an attractive woman on a business trip and barely resists the temptation to compromise his marriage, or he doesn't resist. He's a stranger to himself. These men and women aren't failures by any means. They have reached midlife having achieved all the aspirations of their youth. From the outside, you'd call them very successful. They enjoy all the material rewards our culture metes out to clever, industrious, effective people. The homes, the vacations, the cars, the clothes, they have it all. But they sit with the rabbi and confess that something is missing. Something is lacking. They were so busy winning. They didn't notice what they lost. And now there's an emptiness within. An emptiness that no new acquisition, no vacation adventure, and no makeover can satisfy. So they sing the anthem of our times. I have climbed highest mountains. I have run through fields. I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled city walls, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. What am I supposed to say to them? We don't speak the same language. I live in a world of tradition, a world which values the careful reading of very old books and the conscientious practice of very old disciplines. The most precious object in my life is a scroll, handwritten with a goose quill on parchment containing very old words, words which are very precious to me. My world values what is permanent, eternal, and lasting. They come from a different world. The language of their world is change, innovation, the new. The icon of this world is Steve Jobs, who prided himself for initiating what he called a culture of disruption. Google insists it's not a tech company or a search engine, but an engine of change. The emblem of this world, which we wear right up against our hearts, is the smartphone. And you know that whatever phone you happen to own, it will be replaced in 6 weeks and obsolete in 6 months. Whatever apps you're running, there will soon be 2.0, which is much better. We worship the new, the young, the original. We have little patience with all that was yesterday. What can I say to this world? So I climbed down under the table and tried to find words. There is much to be valued in the new. The products of innovation are miraculous. But something valuable is lost in all this. Something deeply important to being human. What is lost is a wisdom that is old and unchanging. What is lost are ways of looking at the self and at life that cannot be conveyed in an app or a tweet or an Instagram. That's what my old books and my old words teach me. Father Jacob left home running from his brother. He spent that first night alone sleeping with a stone for a pillow. He dreamt of a ladder reaching into the heavens and the angels of God ascending and descending the ladder. The Hasidic master Yaakov Yosef of Polnoy taught that the dream was a message. The human being is a ladder, planted on earth with its top to the heaven. Like angels, the soul is always ascending or descending. The soul is either growing or shrinking. In the course of life, we nurture the soul or we starve it. The soul that is starving leaves us empty and listless and bored and aimless and depressed. Nurturing the soul yields a sense of purposefulness, meaningfulness, and significance. Ultimately, life is not about winning. Life is about growing the soul so that we can say, I matter, I belong, I'm needed, I'm loved, I am. Under the table, I whisper to them, I admire your success. I deeply respect your accomplishments. I do not belittle or begrudge for a moment your hard-earned material prosperity or the accolades and achievements you've reached in your life. I respect your achievements. But it seems to me that the success you've been reaching for is altogether too small, too ordinary, too superficial. The success you've earned leaves you starving for something deeper because it leaves your soul undernourished and underfed. There is another way, another kind of success. The book of Psalms sings, Pitchu li sharei tzedek, open for me the gates of righteousness, that I may enter and praise God. Zeh hashar ladonai, this is the gate of God, the righteous may enter. And the rabbis of the Talmud wondered, when would one ever make such a request? So they created a story as a context for these verses. When a human being dies, they taught, the body is buried in the earth and the soul ascends to heaven. And there the soul is met by angels who guard the gates of heaven. And the angels ask, what was your occupation in the world? And if the soul says, in the world I was a lawyer or a doctor or an executive, in the world I amassed a great deal of power and wealth, they will tell you that is irrelevant here. But if the soul says, in the world I fed the hungry, they will say, Zeh hashar ladonai tzadikim yavovo. This is the gate of God. You who fed the hungry may enter. And if the soul says, in the world I protected the vulnerable, they will say, this is the gate of God. You who protected the vulnerable, please enter. And so for those who cared for the abandoned and those who performed acts of chesed, of kindness and love, you who opened your hand and opened your heart and did chesed, you may enter God's gate. It's a beautiful midrash. But the truth is that the rabbis who told that story had no idea what really happens when we die. The midrash really isn't about that. It is instead about a transposition of values that happens in the presence of death, in the face of eternity. From the vantage of eternity, what really matters? From the vantage of eternity, what is success? Isn't it interesting that no child ever rises at a funeral to eulogize a parent and says, I'm proud of dad for all he earned. I'm proud of mom for what she controlled. What do they say? I'm proud of all my father gave, the way he reached out and helped others. I'm proud of the way my mother cared and loved and nurtured. There are 20,000 graves at Mount Sinai Memorial Park, and not one of them says graduate of Harvard. Not one of them says corporate giant. Not one of them lists the net worth of the deceased. All the descriptions are relational. Loving father, gentle mother, loyal friend, caring member of the community. No child ever says, I love my parents for all they owned. They say, I love the moments we shared. I love the times we were together. I wish we'd had a little more. A few more words with one another. One more hug. It's tragic, but sometimes it takes the shocking presence of death to awaken us to what really matters. I remember a bar mitzvah we celebrated a few years ago right here on this bima. Young man got up to give his talk after finishing his Torah and Haftorah. Got up to give his talk and he announced, today he is a man in the eyes of the tradition. But he looks forward to the day when he'll be a real man. And what will that mean, he said? His own Ferrari, a condo in Mammoth and Maui, and a supermodel girlfriend. 13-year-old kid, can you imagine? I remember sitting here getting angry at this kid because he's a brat, you know. Thought I'd maybe revoke his bris. I can do that, you know. And then I wonder who taught him this. I wonder who taught him this is the meaning of adulthood. And then sadness, because I know exactly where he will end up. He will end up under the table, empty inside, addicted, depressed, lonely. So I got up to give him his charge, his blessing. And I put my arm around the kid and I said, I hope you get all that you wish for. I really do. Someday I hope you have the car and the condos and the beautiful companion. Someday I hope you'll come and show me your fabulous professional resume with all your accomplishments and achievements and accolades and awards. I will be proud of you because all that's important. But know this, there is more to you. There is another side of you, and I don't want you to leave the synagogue today without learning this. So take that fabulous resume of yours and turn the page over, and on the other side, I want you to ask yourself some simple questions. Number one, who is with me in my life? Who knows me and cares for me? Who do I know intimately and care for deeply? Is there someone you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I need you? And they will say without hesitation, I'm coming. Then you're a wealthy person. That's wealth beyond measure. Martin Buber taught us that the greatest truth in life arrives only when we move from a life of I-it relationships to a life of I-thou relationships. when we see beyond the functional, what someone does for me, and embrace and cherish another for who they are in all their uniqueness. Someday, kid, someday you will learn to open the tightly drawn circle of yourself, and you will discover a deep need for an other, a soulmate, a friend, a partner, a lover who offers the opportunity to love and to be loved. Not someone who fulfills your desires. That's not a partner. That's not a lover. That's not a friend. That's a housekeeper. Not someone who fulfills your desires. Someone who propels you to become the person you are meant to be. It's a strange existential fact that not one of us can see his or her own face unaided. It's also true that we can't see our own soul unaided. Only in relationships, only in intimacy, only with closeness will you come to know who you really are. Question 2. What are the causes and purposes that inspire you? What vision of the world do you believe in? Have you worked for? Will you struggle for? What commitments have you sacrificed for? What are the ideals that define you? Around the self, we carry a circle of concern, a circle of caring. Right now, kid, your circle ends at the tip of your nose, but someday you will come to recognize that the bigger your circle, the wider the circle of your concern, the more human you become. Right now, you prize your independence, and that's appropriate because nobody depends on you right now. But someday you will understand that life's greatest dignity comes from recognizing that you are needed, that something is asked of you. The question of life, wrote Abraham Joshua Heschel, the question is not what you can get out of life, but what life gets out of you. You earn significance. You earn worth in your readiness to respond, to be responsible, to care, to give, to engage, to heal, and to help. Question 3, where is your creativity? What can you contribute to the world that is precious and beautiful and only yours? You have a story to tell. Your eyes have seen the world in a way that's unique, so find a way to share what you know, what you've discovered. Tell a story. Make music. Make art. Touch the world in some special way. You were created in the image of the Creator. There is creativity in you, and there is great joy in creativity. Question 4, are you growing? Are you becoming wiser and deeper and more compassionate? Are you becoming a better person than you were? Know that there is another kind of success. It's not the success of achievement, of advancement or acquisition. It is not about gaming the marketplace or conquering the world or making a killing. It's not about winning. The journey toward this success doesn't follow the linear logic of return on investment. It's a moral logic, which is paradoxical. You give in order to get. You sacrifice in order to gain. In empathy for the other, you learn the power of the self to heal. Only in losing yourself will you ever find yourself. It is only in the selfless act that you will ever discover the true nature of the self, who you really are. This kind of success begins, ironically, in defeat, in failure. When the self is displaced from the center of the universe and you discover the humility, you become painfully aware that you're not the sole author of your destiny. You're not self-made. You are the product of myriad acts of self-sacrifice by others who created your world, assured your opportunities, sustained you, protected you, cared for you, and asked nothing in return. You break out of your self-absorption and suddenly you feel indebted. You grow in gratitude. You gain appreciation. And it's from gratitude and appreciation and humility that the soul begins to grow. But I'll tell you this, it's not easy. It takes time. A soul grows one choice at a time, one decision at a time. It takes devotion, commitment, and persistence. And one more quality: it takes courage. It takes courage because each of these gifts, humility, love, purpose, creativity, growth, they involve vulnerability. They demand that you accept risk, that you give up control. The first time you look into the eyes of another and you say, "I love you," you wait and hope and pray they say, "I love you too," but there is no guarantee. You can't control that. There's no certainty in love. You bring children into the world and you understand what it means to invest all of your heart and soul in a being you can't control. And then one day you take the one you love most to the doctor, and the doctor says, "It's cancer. I think I can cure it." And then you will know how vulnerable it is to love. There's no certainty in love. It takes great courage. Dedicate yourself to a cause, but know there's no guarantee you'll succeed. The life of cynicism and pessimism and self-absorption is so much safer. There's no risk there, no chance of failure, but also no moral imagination and no growth. It takes courage to care. According to the Midrash, someone had to jump into the Red Sea before God would open it up. Before we could be redeemed, someone had to say, "I'll go first." The Midrash says his name was Nachshon, and he didn't know if the sea would split or if he would drown, but he jumped in, because this he did know, that no redemption comes if we stand by in fear and wait for it to happen. You jump in. There are no guarantees. You jump in and pray that the sea splits. Growing takes courage, because growing only happens when you step into the vulnerability, into the discomfort of something new, something challenging, something unfamiliar, something that upsets the equilibrium. The definition of a slave is the person who insists that every tomorrow be exactly like yesterday. The person who insists on certainty. The person who demands guarantees. That's why we needed to leave slavery to become a holy people. We left slavery to meet God because God in the tradition is Mechadesh, the author of the new, the creator of new beginnings, the shaper of souls. And what's the reward for cultivating a soul, kid? Nothing material. No honors or accolades. Only what we call the deep sense of security. The deep sense of security we call redemption. Only the intimacy of love, the warmth of friendship, the confidence of integrity, the sense of abiding purpose, and the assurance that your life matters. Only the resilience to meet the failures and tragedies of life with courage and with grace. The psalmist taught it this way: Od yenuvun b'seva, d'shenin v'ra'aninin yihiyu, lahagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlat habo. The righteous shall bloom like the palm tree and thrive like a cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Lord, they flourish in the courts of God. In old age, they still bring forth fruit, full of life and renewal. They testify that the Lord is just, my rock in whom there is no wrong. What are the rewards of cultivating a soul? To live each day up until one's very last with ideals, inspiration, creativity intact. To meet one's finitude without bitterness or anger or regret, only gratitude for the gifts and the blessings of life. To leave this world knowing that you possess a life well lived. We rabbis are strangers in a world that worships innovation, disruption, and revolution. Ours is a wisdom that is old, rooted in the shared experience of generations of our ancestors. And so we come and we sit under the table and we whisper gently, this culture you've imbibed, the values you so prize, all that you've been reaching for, it's chicken feed. It won't nourish you. You will starve. But there is something more substantial at hand. Come and share it. The images of success that you aspire to, the prizes that you gather and hold as your tokens, they will one day leave you naked and vulnerable against the cold disappointments of a harsh world. But there is a wisdom that will warm you and protect you and defend you. Come and share it. The path you've defined for yourself, the path that you've set for your life, it's confined you. It's bent you over. It's made you small. It's lowered the horizons of your possibilities, limited your aspirations. You're bigger than this. You're better than this. You are no rooster. You are a soul, a neshama. You have divinity within you and the promise of joys you have never tasted. So rise up now and celebrate. Come out from beneath the table and walk the world as the human being God meant you to be. Amen. We will conclude our service, our prayers, with Aleinu L'Shabeach, which you will find
478.
478. We rise together.
Aleinu l'shabeach.